You can't leave New York City without trying at least one of these 10 dishes that have become famous in the city. Even though you can get pizza and bagels pretty much anywhere, you won't find anything close to the real thing in the 5 boroughs. They're so good that if you eat them, you might not be able to enjoy other versions of the same dish ever again. Number 10. A black and white striped cookie. History of New York City. Some historical evidence suggests that the local version of the black and white cookie came from something called half-moon cookies, which were first made in Utica, New York in the early 20th century. No one knows for sure where the black and white cookie came from, but some historical facts support this idea. Who could forget Jerry Seinfeld saying that we should look to the cookie as a way to teach people to accept people of different races? No matter what, it has solidified its place in the pantheon of New York City's food. And in a later episode of Seinfeld, when Bette Midler got hurt playing softball in Central Park, she insisted that the famous candy be sent to the hospital. Number 9. Coffee regular in New York City. Those who've lived in New York for a long time will tell you that coffee regular means coffee made with milk and sugar. But as New York City's coffee culture changes, most people are going to fancy coffee shops where espresso drinks are all the rage and ordering regular will get you a blank stare. Today, you can probably get that in an old diner or one of the city's many streetcars. However, fancy coffee shops are becoming more popular in New York City as a place to drink coffee. There's also the question of which part of the world has the right to use the term. Some Bostonians will tell you that they've always owned it. Number 8. A cronut. In the spring of 2013, a French dessert chef named Dominique Ansel tried making a donut in the French style. It became a huge hit overnight. His pastry mashup of a donut and a croissant made people wait around the block to get into his Soho bakery. It replaced cupcakes as New York City's latest pastry craze. Even though the word cronut is a trademarked word and copies of the pastry quickly spread around the city, the only place in the city where you can buy the real cronut is at Ansel's shop on Spring Street. Number 7. Street meat is New York City's favorite meal to eat on the go for lunch. In the past few years, street meat has become New York City's favorite quick lunch, beating out both hot dogs and pizza slices. The Halal Guys, which opened in the early 1990s at the corner of 53rd and 6th Streets, are largely responsible for its rise. They were easy to spot because of the yellow shirts they wore, how quickly they put together the platters, and their simple motto, "We are different." The Egyptian immigrant who made the cart says he was the first in the city to offer halal food on wheels, and his company has grown the meat on rice business from its humble beginnings into a successful chain of brick-and-mortar stores all over the country. In Greek carts, you can choose from well-seasoned chicken, chopped lamb or beef gyro, or pig souvlaki. Other important parts are basmati, yellow, or even Technicolor orange rice, and white and hot sauces, which are the main draw. People say that the first of these condiments, which is usually made with mayonnaise but sometimes with yogurt, has magical powers. Number 6. Sixth place goes to corned beef and pastrami. In the second half of the 1800s, Jews from Romania came to New York City and brought pastrami with them. In the 1800s, Jewish or Irish immigrants brought corned beef to New York, where it became very popular very quickly. No matter how these foods got to the United States, the best place to find them is in a New York-style deli. Number 5. Jars of egg cream. History of New York City. Most people know that egg cream was invented in New York City. The egg cream is a chocolate-flavored drink with bubbles that is related to the milkshake, but not as well known. According to the Encyclopedia of New York City, the neighborhood was the Lower East Side and the decade was the 1920s. Based on this information, the actor Boris Tomaszewski, or the owner of a candy store, Louis Auster, is most likely to play the role of the inventor. Number 4. The story of General Tso's chicken in New York City. In the 1960s and 1970s, New York City and San Francisco restaurants became more popular because their owners tried out different flavors. Our friends on the West Coast can have the crab rangoon, but we'll take all of the sticky sweet, deep-fried General Tso's chicken. Thank you very much. In the 1950s, the dish was first made by Peng Cheng Kui in Taiwan. In 1973, he brought his restaurant to New York City, but the Shunli Palace beat him to the punch when it came to the menu. In 1972, the chef at the restaurant, T.T. Wang, made a sweeter version of the dish. Watch The Search for General Tso or read The Fortune Cookie Chronicles by Jennifer 8 Lee to learn more about the history. Number 3. The history of cheesecake in New York City. Cheesecake has been around for a long time, but the kind that has become associated with New York City didn't come about until 1872, when cream cheese was invented in Chester, New York, which is close by. In 1929, the first modern New York cheesecake is said to have been made by a German immigrant named Arnold Reuben, who's famous for the sandwich that bears his name. He finally put cheesecake on the menus of his two Midtown restaurants called Reuben's and The Turf. The New York cheesecake is known for being dense and creamy, which is different from its Italian cousin. This is made possible by adding more egg yolk to the cream cheese. In the traditional method, graham crackers or cookies are used to make a thin crust, and the dish is served without any toppings. Number 2. New York City's history of bagels. Bagels are now sold in chain restaurants and supermarkets all over the world, and New York City has a lot to do with that. At the turn of the 20th century, Jewish people from Europe moved to New York City. They brought donut-shaped breakfast breads with them. People think that bagels are a tasty tradition that started in the city, and the best way to enjoy them is as part of a morning ritual with things like cream cheese and lox. New York bagels are boiled and baked so that the outside is shiny and the inside is chewy. This is different from bagels you might see in other places, which might look like regular rolls with holes in them. Some true believers think that they can only be made with water from New York City. Number 1. Pizza. Naples, Italy is where New York City got its start, but New York City is where pizza, a uniquely American food that we all know and love, was first made. In the late 1800s, Neapolitan immigrants who were bakers adapted their small, delicate, soupy-centered pizzas from their home country to their new ovens in the city. This let them keep making pizza in the traditional Neapolitan way, coal ones that burned at a slightly lower temperature and with a drier heat. Because the coal ovens made the product crispier, they were eventually made bigger so that the product could be sold by the slice. Let's start by saying that a slice is a plain slice, which is what everyone outside New York City calls a cheese slice. A basic slice only has the crust, sauce, and cheese. It doesn't have any toppings, so a great New York slice will have a good balance between those three parts. None of the parts should be more important than the others. Even though the crust should be crunchy, it should still be able to be folded in half lengthwise as you eat it. The sauce should have a good balance of sweet and sour flavors, and the cheese should be so good that it melts all over the slice and comes off in strings as you eat it. That's all for today, guys. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to mention your comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.